Well, what's up, guys? It's your girl Elle, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is going to be my introduction video, my welcome to my YouTube channel video. And I want to talk with you guys a little bit today about me and my story and who I am and why I'm creating this channel and what you can expect from this channel so that you have a better understanding as to why you're following me. So, that being said, you guys, let's just jump in. All right, you guys. So, first and foremost, I've been to the hard knocks of life. I've been to the school of life, the hardest school there is. And that is what makes me qualified. Aside from all the different qualifications I've gotten over the last decade, I am the most qualified because I have actually lived a hard life and have come out the other side to tell the tale. Where to begin? Let us go back in time to 1990. And in 1990, this girl was born to a 17 and a 16-year-old mother and father. And boy, did both those parents come from some hard knocks themselves, both severely traumatized with all sorts of sexual abuse. There's racial adversity, as my dad is an Indigenous man, and so there's a lot of systemic abuse that has lived in our family, and that gets passed down and carried down not only through our programs but in our blood. My mother grew up in one of the most abusive homes and filled with, unfortunately, all sorts of incest and just dark, icky things. So there's a lot of pain in my parents at this point, and now they give birth to a beautiful baby girl, such as herself. And yeah, I mean, they were obviously doing the best they could, as all parents are, but I grew up around a lot of abuse. You know, my parents fought a lot. My mom was far worse than my dad. My mom definitely was a bit of a narcissist, and she had her issues, lacked a lot of emotional regulation, and her nervous system first response was to fight. So she was very abusive, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. You know, my mother also was very loving in a lot of ways, but very abusive in a lot of ways. And it was a very confusing thing. We moved around a lot because we lived poor. I lived in poverty. So we couldn't afford our rent most of the time. And so we moved around a lot from house to house or from like other family member to other family member. So I moved schools a lot. There was a lot of time I wasn't in school. We used to go on these extended camping trips where we would just go like live in the wilderness, and those were actually some of the funnest years of my life. My dad definitely was teaching me a lot about my Indigenous roots and what plants heal you, what plants kill you. We would make sweat huts and build teepees, and we would hunt off the land and grow our own food. And yeah, those were some really good memories that I had, but it was also extremely dysfunctional in its own ways. My whole life growing up was dysfunctional. So moving around a lot, I was always the new kid, the poor kid, and the smelly kid, as well as the weird kid, because my family was deeply spiritual and rich with my Indigenous roots and beliefs. And yeah, it was something I was very proud of. And so I got made fun of a lot for it, which is just so funny because it's all the things that are popular nowadays. But, you know, I was heavily bullied and made fun of for these things. So, of course, these were my very formative years. A lot of bullying, a lot of abuse at home, moving around a lot, poverty. You know, a lot of years we got our Christmas. All of it was from the food bank, toys from the food bank. We shopped at the food banks a lot, food stamps. Like, this was just the life that I lived and I grew up in. And at the time, I didn't know better. I didn't know any other way. And so in my own way, of course, I was a happy child, but I was also a deeply traumatized child as I became the primary caregiver for my sibling and for my mom. As most days, she would go either catatonic or would be so disassociated that I would have to take care of her and my brother. And that's a big responsibility on a little child. And, you know, of course, all of these experiences have formed and shaped me to be the person that I am today. It's also caused a lot of issues that I've had to undo and unravel, if you will. And yeah, home life was really hard when my parents split up. My mom got into continuous abusive relationships, and me and her just began to fight a lot more. It became physical, like fist fights, and it was a lot of hatred between us, and it was for a really long time, up until just I'd say about 7 years ago. But because of this, I moved out at age 14. My little sibling, my little brother, decided to move with me. And at the time, I was dating an older guy who was not working. So I was 14, going to school, working 2 jobs to support a deadbeat boyfriend at the time and my little baby brother. And that is a lot for a 14-year-old. You were still a fucking baby. You were still a child at 14. And this forced me to grow up even faster. As if I didn't already grow up fast enough as it was, this forced me to grow up even faster, which would then, lead me into a whole series of things. By the time I was 17 going on 18, I got into a 10-year relationship that was highly physically abusive, emotionally, mentally abusive, spiritually abusive. And that probably fucked me up the most. I've been out of that relationship for 10 years now, was in it for 10 years, been out for 10 years. And I finally feel a deep completion with a lot of the healing work that I've been able to do in that relationship. Granted, I still have a lot to undo and unravel and unprogram. The majority of that time I've spent healing. But while I was in that relationship, not only was I physically abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, but I had no family. My mom had abandoned me at 17 and told me she never wanted to talk to me again because I wanted a relationship with my dad. The relationship with my dad wasn't that great. This is my stepdad too, by the way, not my biological father. That's a whole other story. And so I didn't have any family, and I was with this abusive person, and I had nowhere to go. I had no friends because I've never had friends up until recent years, of course. But at the time, I never had friends. So he was all that I had. And so I stayed, and I didn't know what else to do. And, we did a lot of things that were incriminating. I was a criminal. I was in and out of jail. That was a really hard and confusing 10 years of my life. And I didn't have friends. I felt very isolated. And when you're isolated with an abuser for 10 years, it really fucks with your brain, fucks with your mind. And I finally got out of that relationship when I was 27, and I was really traumatized. I was traumatized from my childhood. I was traumatized from that relationship. And this really, really fucked with me. And I didn't know how to handle it. And the only way that I knew how was by numbing. So I was an alcoholic. I was addicted to cocaine and methamphetamine. I began sleeping around because I was trying to do anything to fill that void, fill that hole, try to numb the pain. And it wasn't until about a year or two into doing cocaine almost every day and smoking methamphetamine and catching genital herpes that I decided enough was enough. This was where I was like, okay, something needs to change. And I remember the exact day that this happened because I had been on a really long bender. I hadn't slept in a few days, I hadn't eaten in a few days, and I actually thought I was going to die. Like I thought I was going to have some type of weird OD, and I thought I was going to die. And the truth is I was dying, but what was dying was that path I was on. What was dying was this version of me was about ready to die. And I didn't know it at the time, but I physically felt that. And I remember I was living with my little brother at the time. We were roommates, and I texted him, and he didn't know I was into drugs. And I just said, hey, I'm really drunk. Could you just check in on me every once in a while? But I was really afraid I was going to die. And I remember praying, and not the type of praying where we all kind of do sometimes, where we're like, oh my God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. Like that weird thing that I'm sure you can relate to that we've all at some point in time done when we knew we were really going to be in shit for something, or we were just like, oh God, if you just get me out of this one time, I promise I'll never do it again. No, I was deeply praying to God for the first time. And I wasn't calling it God. I said, universe, I don't know if you're real, but hear me right now. I can't keep going on the way that I'm going. And if you don't change something in my life for me, I am going to take my own life because I can't live this way anymore. Nobody should deserve to live this way. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I begged out, and I was basically metaphorically on my knees begging to the universe to change my life, that I was ready. I was ready for a new life, because if it didn't change, I was going to take my life. And I woke up the next morning and I was a different person. I felt it. I felt it immediately. I quit smoking. I was smoking cigarettes. I quit smoking. I started eating healthier. I immediately got into meditation, and yoga and cold plunging and fasting, and like all of this information somehow was just in me. It was coming through like synchronistically, messages and new videos were popping up on my phone, and I was meeting the right people, and my life changed faster than you can imagine. And overnight I went from smoking meth and living a horrendous life to being vegan, fasting, and taking care of myself. That year, I put myself through school so that I could be a health coach. I got my nutritional course. I got all these different certifications so that I could help other people change their lives. Now, within that, I was learning a lot of holistic health. Growing up Indigenous, my kukum, meaning my grandma, in my language, kukum means grandma, she used to tell me that there's no such thing as an incurable disease. All diseases can be cured. The creator has put plants here for all of us, and we can heal. And so I had that as a core belief. And so I knew that I was going to heal. And I healed my genital herpes. And it was this big, huge thing. I had this big viral interview that went crazy on the internet. And I had thousands of people asking me how I could help them. So I went and got certified in all of these things so that I could handle and be better equipped to help people with this problem of healing their HSV. And through this, I realized that I was healing other illnesses and diseases I had. So I was helping other people cure their incurable diseases, specifically herpes, and other things. And this is where my life really began to take off. And I did that for a few years. And when I realized that's not really what I want to do with my life, I want to do the deeper thing. I want to teach people how to really transform their lives. This is when I started building programs and changing my structure as to how I teach and what I want to teach. And then, of course, these last 3 years of my own life have been another initiation where I 3 years ago lost my home to a fire, almost died in that fire, had my car stolen, had my money, all my money stolen, and I was left with nothing in the dead of winter and alone with no friends in the middle of the pandemic. And that was probably one of the most traumatizing things. If you just heard my life, that was the most traumatizing. And I'll tell you why. And it's because I came out the other side and I found safety for the first time in my life. I found healthiness in my life for the first time. And in a fell swoop overnight, that changed. And I felt so lost and so, I was grieving, and I've been grieving. Let's just say that it was a lot to grieve that life because I knew that I had to become somebody new, that this was the next level, the next phase. And that is what brings me to here doing YouTube, something I've wanted to do for 19 years. And I've been putting it off for 19 years. And so through this initiation, in these last 3 years, I would also get mold sickness and mold toxicity, which would lead me into being a Cambo practitioner as I heal my mold toxicity. And, it's just been a journey. I have been on a fucking journey. And I've healed myself of multiple illnesses, multiple diseases, in multiple methods. But the one method that I use and come back to time and time again is my inner alchemy, which is the Unraveled series that I have here on my YouTube channel. This is the basis to all my work. If not for this, I wouldn't be doing any of these other things you hear me talking about. My life has taken a 360 because of my own inner alchemy. Alchemy is the process of transforming something from one state of being to another, like how you turn lead into gold or flour into bread. But inner alchemy is transforming your identities. It's taking yourself from one version and turning it into a new version. I teach people how to do this inner alchemy. I teach you how to transform your pain into power so that you can become a conscious creator of your life. That is huge, you guys. So I have a free series that I'm beginning. It's a 12-part series here on my YouTube channel called Unravel. At the time of this video, I'm only 2 episodes in, but I'm sure because this is going to be my welcome video that over time you'll see. I'll have a whole 12 videos for you guys. And I'm really excited to offer this because it is the single most important thing I could be gifting to the world. I know that we can't all afford these resources. I know that there are people who are ready to change and don't know where to start. And I really want to gift you guys this opportunity for free to be able to go into yourselves and transform your life. If I can do it, you can do it. So I'm going to teach you how to really move through your pain and turn it into power and begin creating the life that you've always wanted. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I want to gift to you guys. So preface, a lot of my videos are very deep, profound teachings, and you're going to have to watch them more than once. So you know how when you watch a movie and then you watch a movie another time and you catch things that you missed the first time, and then maybe you watch it a third time and you're like, whoa, like how did I not see that the first few times I watched that? And it deepens the understanding of the story or character development. Okay, that's the same with my videos. My videos need to be watched multiple times so that the understanding and the depth of them can be really understood at a core fundamental level. And all of my videos have free resources in the description box to really help you on your journey getting started. So there's tons of free resources that I'm offering you guys to really teach you how to turn your pain into power and to alchemize your life and turn your life around. That is my gift to you, to the world. I want to offer that. So I hope that you enjoy the free help and assistance and the teachings that I'm offering you guys, because truly, if I can transform my life and to be somebody who owns 5 businesses of her own, has built her own businesses, who does programs, who helps people, who is certified in many things, who is married and has a healthy relationship, who has a wonderful community of loving friends, has a loving relationship with all of her parents. Like, I have literally turned my life around, and I have helped the people in my life turn their life around, and I have helped many clients turn their lives around as well too. So this is me. This is my story. This is what the channel L, this is what the frequency L is. It is this alchemical, igniting, initiating energy. I am here to help initiate you into your transformation. So that being said, you guys, enjoy.